there was no moment that I was like, for any of the specs that I was like, oh yeah, I'm good at this one spec right now. Like I just woke up and I'm like, I'm fucking good now. You know? Just looking at it from the perspective of it looks like second nature to me when I see you play. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I definitely feel like I've reached a point where I can kind of just do my rotation and not think about it a whole lot. And play it to like, I don't know, 95 of its potential. But the remaining 5% I have to like lock in and focus. Which you'll see me do in raid. In the sense that like each global I press is like intentional, I guess. I kind of think of it as like, I was thinking about this the other day, where I feel like when you're learning something, there are kind of 4 stages of comfortability. Man, I cannot spell stages. Regarding like how you're using your button presses. The first stage is like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Pressing CDs when they're up. This is stage 1 of learning spec. Don't really know what's going on. You're pressing cooldowns when they're up, but with no real consistency or structure. I feel like that's pretty accurate depiction of somebody learning a spec. Stage 2 is like you have your rotation down, but your tempo sucks. So like this is somebody that has like got to a point where they remember and understand how to press their abilities, but like in the heat of the moment in raid, like you sometimes need to think about those global presses, and that can lead to like these large increments between your global presses, right, which is inoptimal. Maybe the placement of your cooldowns isn't great. You know, maybe you just press on cooldown and you don't think about like the ads that are spawning in 3 seconds. You're sort of pressing your cooldowns despite what's going on in the fight, aka your fight tempo sucks, right? Stage 3 is like rotation is solid. You maximize uptime. You follow mechanics. So this would be like, see, this is kind of like the stage I would say where you're like, your rotation feels second nature. All right, you can do your rotation while also doing mechanics, following some game plan you have for a raid, for a dungeon, and you also are at a point of like comfortability where you prioritize uptime, which is very important as a damn DPS spec. All right. I mean, another way I could have said this is, let's say, I'll say tempo is good. Maximize uptime and follow plan around mechanics. All right. So you're basically like, this is, I think, where most good players kind of are, right? Where you have your rotation, you sort of know, okay, I want to make sure I have cooldowns for this upcoming dungeon pull we're about to do. I'm gonna hold off on them, and then when I go into it, I'm gonna use them as I'm gonna go in my cooldowns, do like big damage, right? You also know that you're a DPS player, so you want to start attacking as soon as your tank tags the mobs, and you can do all these things while dodging mechanics. All right, this is stage 3, and then I feel like recently, kind of what I've been discovering, and this is especially true for assassination, and this is like the final stage of like comfortability playing a spec. And I would describe it very simply as every global is done with purpose. So like every single time you use an ability, there's a distinct and important reason for that global press that makes it the optimal button to press. And doing this for every single second with every single global. This is like the final stage of just mastery. And I think this is relevant. The reason I bring up assassination as an example It's because a lot of people that play Asa just button mash, okay? Which is fine and good for a lot of other melee specs, but Asa is very particular with like pooling and energy usage, such that you don't really want to do that. But on the other end, on the other side of things, if you're not pressing enough globals, well then you're losing damage. So yeah, exactly, Slice. There's no junk volume in your key presses, and this final stage is, I think, what not even I think this final stage is what makes Outlaw so challenging, because all of their globals, so like not all globals as Assassination Rogue, as Sub Rogue, have the same value, have the same weight, okay? Because your damage profile is heavily skewed towards your cooldowns. Like even my intentional globals outside of cooldowns, they're just less meaningful on average than any single one of an Outlaw Rogue's globals. Because of how heavily reliant the spec is on CTR, because of how fast it plays, it's almost impossible to like do this to 100% accuracy as Outlaw. And so it's just a question of how close can you get to being perfect, which is what makes you like a really good Outlaw player.